An original production by Yasmin Nofal. On Paul Revere. The engraving of the Boston Massacre to Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. There was a lot of honorable events that took place, but the result in these made an even bigger accomplishment: the forming of a new country. The early life of Paul Revere. Paul Revere was born in late December of 1734 in Boston, Massachusetts, to Apollos Revere and Deborah Hitchborn. Apollos came to Boston when he was 13 years old and worked for another to learn the skill of silversmithing. Once Apollos had his own business, he changed his last name to Revere, an English spelling of Revere. Paul Revere was the oldest of his brothers to survive. He was the third of 9 to 12 children. Revere's dad taught the art of gold and silversmithing in his teenage years. As Revere grew up, he attended the North Riding School in Boston. In 1754, his father died, which made Paul the main source of income, so with the help of his mother, they set up the family silver shop. Paul was only 19 years old. In 1757, Paul Revere married Sarah Orne. They had 8 children together. A tragic death with a new beginning. In 1773, Paul Revere's wife died. Soon after, Revere married Rachel Walker and had 8 children, which makes him have a total of 16 children. Imagine that. This was a turning point for Revere in that he began to get more involved in politics and the fight towards American independence. Adulthood and Revere's relation to America. Revere got involved with politics through his connections with organizations. He was a member of the Masonic Lodge of St. Andrew, and from there met notable people such as John Hancock, Samuel Adams, Dr. Joseph Warren, and James Otis. Revere made the engraving of the Boston Massacre, which made more people become anti-British, thus contributing to the American Revolution. Another part of American history that Revere took part in was the Boston Tea Party. He helped organize it and were one of the people disguising themselves as the Indians to throw the tea overboard. In the time before the Revolution, Revere would watch the British soldiers' movements. He was also a messenger for the Boston Committee of Correspondence and the Massachusetts Committee of Correspondence, and even dispatched messages to the Continental Congress. Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. On a dark Sunday night on April 18, 1775, Paul Revere was sent by Dr. Joseph Warren to ride into Lexington, Massachusetts, to inform Samuel Adams and John Hancock that the British soldiers were coming. 2 associates of Revere helped him row across the Charles River to Charleston. He then got on a horse borrowed by Deacon John Larkin, a friend of Revere. While in Charleston, he verified that the local Sons of Liberty committee had seen his prearranged signals. While riding to Lexington, Revere alarmed the countryside and arrived in Lexington about midnight. When he came to the house where Samuel Adams and John Hancock were staying, a guard asked Paul Revere to quiet down. Revere replied by saying, "Noise? You'll have noise enough before long. The regulars are coming up." Revere was then joined by William Dowse, another rider. He had been sent the same errand but by a different route. A third rider, Dr. Samuel Prescott, joined them when Revere and Dowse were deciding whether to continue to Concord, Massachusetts, where the weapons and other supplies were placed. British patrols soon arrested all 3, but Prescott escaped immediately, and Dowse soon after. Revere was held for some time, but later released. The Revolutionary War. During the Revolutionary War, Revere accomplished a couple of things like printing the first continental currency, becoming a member of the Committee of Correspondence, and being appointed a major in the militia. He was even promoted to lieutenant colonel. Post-war. After the Revolution, Revere expanded his business and worked on a number of different items. Up until 1789 he ran a small hardwood store, and by 1788 he set up a workshop that had bolts, spikes, and nails for shipyards, which even included brass fittings for the USS Constitution. He also made cannons and cast bells. One of his biggest bells still rings today in the Boston King's Chapel. Revere's involvements covered a wide variety of things. He was a Freemason, held different offices, served as a president for an association, was a skillful engraver and metal worker, and was involved in the American Revolution. His last years. In 1811, at the age of 76, Paul Revere was getting pretty old. He retired and let his sons and grandsons take care of his business. In 1813, his wife Rachel and his son, Paul, died. This made Revere sorrowful, and on May 10, 1818, died. His death was of natural causes. He was buried in Boston's Granary Burying Ground. Revere was a modest man. He didn't come from a rich family, and his father was an immigrant, which made times hard. To come and rise up to the extent that Paul Revere did would have never been believed to be possible if it didn't happen. The legacy. Paul Revere risked everything to free his nation. He was a dedicated man with a definite role in life. Most people know him as the man who rode on the horse to warn people that the British were coming, but that isn't all. Not only was he that man, but also one who forever changed the course of American history. Because of him, we now know of the free country that is here today, the United States of America.